A Wisconsin man has been found guilty in one of the most disturbing child murder cases in recent years. Prosecutors say 21-year-old Logan Kruckenberg Anderson shot his newborn daughter in the head just days after her birth and left her body in the woods, hidden beneath the snow. Tonight, we take a closer look at the twisted psychology behind this tragedy, what drove a teenage father to turn on his own blood, and how fear, denial, and guilt turned into cold-blooded murder. The dark psychology of Logan Kruckenberg Anderson, the father who killed his new brunette. As a story that chills even the most hardened investigators of crimes so senseless, so cruel that understanding it requires stepping deep into the darkest corners of the human mind. In the small town of Albany, Wisconsin, 2021 began not with fireworks or resolutions, but with the quiet horror of a newborn's death. The victim was just 5 days old. Her name was Harper. The man responsible for her death wasn't a stranger nor a monster in the woods. He was her father, Logan Kruckenberg Anderson. Only 16 years old at the time, but old enough to make a choice that no one could comprehend. To understand why, we have to go back to the beginning and to the confusion, fear, and warped reasoning that turned a teenage boy into a killer. Logan grew up like many small-town kids. He was quiet, average in school, known more for keeping to himself than causing trouble. But when he began dating a 14-year-old girl, their teenage world collided with something they weren't prepared for: reality. When the girl got pregnant, both teens hid the truth. They were terrified not just of their parents, but of judgment, of the world. For months, the pregnancy was a secret. No doctor, no hospital, no support system. Just fear and the growing weight of a decision neither of them could face. On January 5, 2021, Harper was born in a bathtub. No nurses, no midwives, just a frightened girl and a boy who had no idea how to be a father. For a brief moment, there was silence, then the cry of a newborn, a sound that should have meant hope. But for Logan, it meant something else entirely: pressure, responsibility, and the sudden shattering of his illusion of control, according to court records. Logan initially told his girlfriend that he would find someone to take the baby to a better home. He said he'd handle it. In his mind, he wasn't committing murder. He was solving a problem. That's where the psychology becomes chilling. Because in Logan's mind, Harper wasn't a daughter. She was a symbol of fear. Fear of being caught. Fear of losing his future. Fear of facing what he had done. Days passed. The girl's father began to ask questions. "Where's the baby?" Logan's answers were vague. He told everyone that he had given Harper to an adoption agency. He even claimed he'd found someone on Snapchat to take her. But investigators later discovered that was all a lie, a fragile story, built to hide something far darker. When police confronted him, Logan's mask began to crack. At first he said he left Harper somewhere safe. Then he admitted he had taken her into the woods. He said he'd left her there in the snow because he couldn't face anyone knowing the truth. He thought she would die of exposure, quietly, painlessly. But when he heard her cry, something inside him snapped again. He turned back, pulled out a gun, shot her twice in the head. That single act changed everything from a desperate teenager to a cold-blooded killer. But what drives a person to commit such an act? Forensic psychologists studying the case pointed to a mix of immaturity, panic, and narcissism. Logan wasn't driven by hatred or insanity. He was driven by avoidance. He saw his child as a threat to his fragile identity. And rather than face shame, he chose elimination. Psychologically, this is what's called ego-dystonic panic state, where one's own actions clash with their self-image so violently that the person detaches emotionally. Logan didn't see himself as a murderer. He saw himself as someone forced into a terrible choice. That illusion gave him permission to act. In his confession, he never cried. He described what happened as though it were a series of chores, like taking out the trash. That emotional detachment, experts say, is a red flag of sociopathic tendencies, but not necessarily full psychopathy. It's learned emotional suppression shaped by fear and youth. After the murder, Logan returned home. He acted normal. He even told his girlfriend the baby was fine, that she was safe. That's another disturbing layer of the psychology's the maintenance of normalcy after committing violence. It's a coping mechanism seen in both juvenile and adult offenders. The brain, unable to process guilt, switches into denial. He convinced himself it was over, that he'd solved everything. But truth has a way of resurfacing. Days later, the girl's father called 911, reporting that his daughter's baby had disappeared. Police questioned the teens, but their stories didn't match. Eventually, investigators found a trail of evidence leading to the woods. When confronted again, Logan broke down not with sorrow, but with exhaustion. He led them to Harper's body, buried under snow, to the detectives who found her. The scene was unforgettable. A small, lifeless form wrapped in a blanket, her features barely visible beneath ice and dirt. It wasn't just a crime scene. It was a monument to innocence destroyed by fear in court. Prosecutors painted Logan as cold and calculated. They said he planned it, thought about it, and chose the easiest path for himself. His defense attorney, Kevin Smith, tried to argue that Logan was just a scared teenager, that his mind wasn't capable of fully understanding the consequences. But the evidence told a different story. 2 bullets to the head. Deliberate, final, irreversible, psychologically. Logan's crime reflects a terrifying truth, that human empathy can be overridden by self-preservation. He didn't kill out of rage or impulse. He killed to erase a mistake. And that's what makes it so haunting. Experts describe his mindset as instrumental violence used not for pleasure, but for purpose. He saw Harper's existence as a threat, and eliminating her as a solution. This type of logic is common in young offenders who experience extreme stress but lack emotional maturity. They operate on short-term thinking. If I remove the problem, I remove the fear. But the fear never really goes away. It just transforms into guilt, haunting the subconscious long after the act is done. During the trial, Logan sat silent most of the time. No tears, no emotion. Witnesses said he looked empty, like the event had drained everything inside him. But emptiness isn't innocence. It's the mark of a fractured psyche, one that has shut down to avoid collapse. Psychologists testified that Logan showed signs of detachment, suppression and denial, all coping mechanisms, but none that excused his actions. When the verdict was read guilty of first-degree, intentional homicide and hiding a corpse, there was no reaction, just stillness. In that silence, perhaps for the first time, Logan realized what he'd done. He would spend the rest of his life not haunted by ghosts, but by the echo of a cry he once silenced, for many. The case raised painful questions. How does someone so young commit something so monstrous? The answer lies not in evil alone, but in the combination of immaturity, fear, and the human instinct to protect oneself at any cost. Logan was not a demon. He was a boy who made choices like a coward, choices that stripped him of his humanity. And Harper, his daughter, became the price of that cowardice. In March 2026, Logan will be sentenced. The courtroom will fill with people who've spent years waiting for justice. But no sentence will ever bring back the life he took. The psychologist who studied his case said it best. He didn't just kill his daughter. He killed the version of himself that could have ever been good. What this case leaves us with isn't just grief, it's a warning. That fear, when left unchecked, can turn love into cruelty. That a lie, when repeated, can become a justification. And that even the youngest, most ordinary faces can hide the cold machinery of human denial. Harper's name may fade from headlines, but in the field of forensic psychology, her story will remain a haunting case study, a reminder that evil isn't always born. Sometimes it's built one lie, one choice, one bullet at a time.